totems. A sports mascot is a totem because that is a symbol that has a deep meaning to a particular group of people. The Fighting Irish Leprechaun has a lot of meaning for Notre Dame fans. And a religious object could also be a totem from a sociological perspective. The Bible, or a cross, or the Quran. Those are totems for the groups of people who believe in them. Christians believe in the Bible. Christians look to the cross as a symbol of our faith. Muslims look to the Quran. From a sociological perspective, all of those are basically the same kind of thing. Here are some more examples. A Michael Jordan basketball jersey would be a totem for Chicago Bulls fans. Michael Jordan being the greatest basketball player who ever lived, who helped the Bulls to a string of national championships in the 1990s. When a Chicago Bulls fan looks at that jersey, he or she might feel a powerful sense of loyalty to the Chicago Bulls basketball team, belief in their greatness, excitement about what they could achieve in the future. Here's another example. The U.S. flag. The U.S. flag is a totem because it symbolizes our identity as Americans. So we look to the flag, and perhaps if we're listening to someone sing the national anthem, perhaps we're at a stadium with a whole group of people who are there together, it might move us to feel a powerful sense of loyalty to our country, even the willingness to sacrifice our lives to our country. So these are examples of totems. They're objects that have meaning to a particular group of people because they express the identity of the group. Here's another example. A chalice or a cup with this shape would be a totem to Catholics. Catholicism is one denomination within the religion of Christianity, and Catholics, when we celebrate our most sacred ritual, the Mass, we use a cup that's shaped like this to hold the wine, which we believe becomes the blood of Jesus Christ. From a sociological perspective, all three of these things are equally totems, and they're equally sacred. The Bulls jersey is sacred. The flag is sacred. The chalice is also sacred. However, from a theological perspective, which is coming from within one religion, only one of these objects would be sacred. If you're a Christian, the chalice would be sacred. The flag, although it's important, we wouldn't say that it's sacred from a theological perspective because it's a secular symbol, it's a social symbol. Same with the Bulls jersey. It might be important to us, but from a theological perspective, we would not say that it is sacred. Here's another object that has meaning to me personally because it's something that my daughter made and gave to me. It's a little clay figure. But it is not a totem because it does not have meaning to a group. Each of us might have an object that we personally feel is meaningful to us, but that does not make it a totem. A totem is an object that has meaning to a group of people and expresses their sense of identity. So, some examples of what totems are and are not. Of course, we don't want to talk about what happens to Notre Dame in the national championship game. Okay, from a sociological perspective, religion creates communities. That is why it is so important and so powerful. Religion, as a system of beliefs and practices relating to sacred things, unites people into a community. It encodes or expresses and enforces the values of society. Take marriage, for example. When you get married, from a theological perspective, you're standing in front of God. You're also standing in front of the community. You're making a solemn promise to stay married. Your belief in that religion, your belief in the teachings of Jesus and the values of that community helps you to stay married. Through all the troubles and trials and challenges that make marriage so difficult, having that religion helps to enforce the family values of the society. It also helps to maintain order, and it has a sense of authority. People respect religious leaders because they believe that their authority comes from God. People respect sacred objects and religious rituals. and their respect for that authority helps them to follow the values of the society. Sociology can also help to explain the different images of God that are found in different religions, the different creation myths that are found in different religions, and the different rituals. All of those things from a sociological perspective relate to the different characteristics of different societies. Here's an example. Sociology explains who the gods are. We can take as examples two very different images of God that are found in the Bible. As William Podden puts it, whatever life is based on, there is where divinity is found or projected. So for example, in Psalm 23, God is portrayed as a shepherd, guiding the nomadic Israelites. In the early days of their history, the Israelite people were wandering. They had their flocks of sheep, maybe cattle, and they would wander from place to place looking for grazing grounds for the sheep. They weren't really settled into any one particular place, so they envisioned God as their shepherd. Just as a shepherd guides the sheep, so God was guiding the Israelite people as they traveled. However, when they moved into the Promised Land, Israel, Palestine, and kind of settled down and formed a slightly more agricultural society where they were farming, some of them perhaps were living in cities, they started to perceive God as a lawgiver who gave order to their society. Please notice too, as you look at these slides, that I've tried to give each one of them the format of a research report with a title, at least 3 bullet points, and then at the bottom references which tell you where I got the information and where I got the images. The image at the bottom also has a caption which explains what it is: a Jewish scribe copying the calligraphy of the Torah, or the Bible. So this is just an example of how a sociologist would look at the Bible and say that the different images of God we find in there can be explained in terms of the social situation of the Israelite people and eventually the early Christians. Religious rituals can also be explained as having a social purpose. Religious rituals strengthen the bonds individuals feel with their community's sense of identity. Think, for example, about the difference between watching a game on TV of a sport or a team that you really, really love and actually going to that game. If you think about it, why would people pay $50 to $100 to go to a football game that they can watch on TV and perhaps even have a better view of it? It's for the power of the experience. There is nothing like being in Notre Dame Stadium during a football game and feeling all the passion and the energy of the crowd around you. It energizes you. It makes you fall in love with the university all over again. So the experience of the ritual itself helps the individuals bond and become members of that group. I think Podden says it really well when he writes, give me a minute to find this in the reading, on page 34, kind of towards the bottom. Well, he explains ritual, he defines it. A display or activity which is given intensified value by the very fact that it is collectively conducted and witnessed and experienced. In other words, you gotta love it live. You gotta be there in person. Its collective nature, collective means doing something as a group, creates a state of consciousness that transcends the bounds of individual private experience. In other words, you can get an experience when you go and do a ritual that's important to a group. You get an experience you can't have by yourself. A religious example would be the Catholic Mass. When we go to Mass, we sort of renew our sense of identity as Catholics. For those of us who maybe only go to Mass once or twice a year, Christmas and Easter, you go back there and you sort of remember, yeah, I'm Catholic, these things are important to me, and it can help the individual to renew their sense of identity. Rituals can also give an individual a social role and impress upon that individual what their responsibilities are. Take graduation, for example. When you walk across that stage and receive that diploma from the college president or from the dean, you become a different person. You are now a college graduate with a bachelor's degree, ready to move into the workforce, Society then has to respect you because of that degree